Hi, I'm Riley Spillinger, and in this video I wanted to show you a couple of things that I love to do to upcycle. My definition for upcycling is taking one thing and making it into something else. You can use that in a lot of senses. First, I'm just going to show you a quick clip. I like to take flower arrangements that I find at thrift stores. I don't remember how much this one was. Okay. So I spent like $5-ish on this one, clearly. It's falling apart from its previous arrangement, but it's got a lot of qualities that I love about it to be able to make it into something else. So I'll show you what I'll do with this at the end of the video. Then I'll show you. So today the main part of my video is going to be showing how to take jeans and make them into aprons. So this one is a jean and fabric apron mix, which I think is very adorable. And then we have kid size ones. These are super fun to do for actual use or play, just to have for, I always go doing dress ups, but there's this one. These are just a couple examples of ones I've done. So it's a little bigger, ties. This one has some raw edges to it, as well as some. So here's the raw edges. So let's get started. So the first thing you want to do is you want to get a pair of jeans that you're not going to be using. I've already used these for one project, so I'll be using these for another. Things I like to look for in jeans is you want to have a little wider here, because this is going to be where the neckline is, as well as super skinny or small pairs of pants are a little harder to work with, but they're still definitely usable for a lot of reasons. The other ones you can do is, this one was a pair of mine, just to show an example of a full pair. So what I like to do is, as you can see with this one, you want to cut out the leg, and then you want to cut everything, but not include these big seams. They'll really hard on your sewing machine. So I'll cut those out and show you what I've got. Okay, now that I've got the pant mostly separated, still got a few seams. At this part you want to kind of decide how you want your apron. So I like the way this seam looks. I think it would be super fun to put it kind of down the middle. And so I don't want to cut on what I consider the pretty seam versus this side, which I feel like doesn't have a lot of character. So I'm going to cut down, this would be the outside of the leg instead of the inside. So that's the only really decision making you have to make at this point. So I've cut down the outside of the leg, and it gets down to here. This is the one part of the leg that you do want to keep this top edge, because this is what I'm going to use for the top of the bib part. So I'm just cutting right through it, but that is one seam that I am going to leave attached. So now you're left with a large open piece of fabric. We'll lay this down and put our pattern on top of it so you can see what it will look like. To make a pattern, all I did was I took a piece of poster board and I went and stood in front of a mirror and I held up the poster board and I measured from here to here about how long that I want the apron to cover. And then you have to imagine as if this is half of what you are working with. And so I had it centered on my body. If you have a friend, it works really great to have a friend with. So I tried to center where it would lay, and then I put a mark where my hip is, where I want to have the string. And all I did was I put a mark here, here, and here to measure the length. And then you do whatever shape you want to. For me, I wanted to stick more with the kind of slant and then the nice little curved base. You just want to make sure that right here on this corner and this corner are both 90-degree angles, because since it's going to be on the turn, if not, you'll have like a little weird point. I mean, if that's what you choose to do, then you do you. Okay, now that we've got the pants on the floor and our pattern made, we're going to try to measure up to see if this pair of pants will fit for my pattern, or we can do something else. So it looks like it's going to be long enough, so I'm going to get it folded in half and I'll show you what it will look like. Okay, I've got the pants folded in half. It's important to note that this center seam may not be perfectly center for this design. If you are concerned about that, then you might have to alter your design. So when I laid down my pattern, I wanted to match up here on the top because I wanted that to be the top. It looks like I'm going to be a little short for this side of my pattern, but it does look like I'll have a little extra. This is normal to have a little extra since our pant legs aren't always straight, especially when it comes to the crotch area. So I'm still happy with how it's going to look. There's going to be a few minor differences, but because this is taking what we have and making it into something else, it's hard to get a perfect fit. So here we have our cutout pattern. You can kind of start to see the apron coming together, what it will look like. Now here's one of my favorite parts. I already have now my base kind of put together. I'm gonna iron this out with my iron. You don't have to, I just want to because I want that top to be flat. But I really love the pocket that came with these pants. I love to use the pockets, especially if they've got a fun design. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out this part of the pocket so that then I can put it, I'll probably put it right here. So here's where some of the fun gets to come in. There are a few supplies that you can use. If you don't want to purchase anything, you can definitely leave this a raw edge. What you can do is just take your scissors and clip a little bit to cause it to have those rags hanging off the edge. You can kind of see, for example, this style of my shorts that I'm wearing right now is if you wanted to have that, you could cut just along the bottom. I have some extra lace that I have. I don't think this one would be enough for this project. I have this one that I might use. Let me just play with some ideas and then we'll make a decision in a second. This is something that I do purchase. This one is the bias tape. This is the smaller size, but it's double fold. Double fold means that you don't have to do as much ironing, which I like, and then this one's the wider one. We'll see how I like this with the yellow. I was looking at my set and I realized I have previously made this little kids one, and I think it would be really adorable to make a matching one. So I'm going to take the yellow ribbon, this one away, and I think what I'm going to do is mimic this design onto here, but with some slight alterations. So this one, as you can see, has the raw edge. And we're going to do something similar with that up on this one. Now that I have an idea of what I'm going to do, I'm going to put everything kind of where I want, measure it to where it's going to be, and throw some pins in it. So I went back and looked, and I do realize that I have a little bit of lace left over from this project that I want to incorporate in here to make it really feel like it matches. I realized I don't have enough here, but I can always just, before I sew this in, stitch right into the opening so it kind of looks like it's a little pocket surprise. And then I'm going to take my lace. I'm thinking about going to here, so I have enough for each side. Here to here, and then here to here. And then I'll use the yellow to finish off this little bit and bring the lace down into the straps. So I'll get that cut and pinned and I'll show you in a minute. Okay, now that I've got everything pinned how I want it to be so that it will make a little bit of a matching set here. The only things left are this part, which I'll show you in a minute, but now that I've got these pinned, I'm gonna sew them on and then I'll be right back. I'm at my sewing machine. I'm gonna start with the pocket. So I'm gonna unpin it from my project. I have the lace pinned on the top. I'm gonna be doing a straight stitch right along one of these stitch lines. So I'm going to center that right on the project that I am stitching with. So I'm going to put this right into the middle of this. I want to line up my area to be stitched with this, the needle. A couple things to remember is that especially with jeans, you need to make sure that you're using the proper needle and that your machine can take going through heavy fabrics. I've broken quite a few needles going through some of my projects because I tried to go through too many layers at once. So I'm skipping over the very edge right here where there's lots of layers in this corner. I'm just trying not to sew on that part because that part will probably cut this. So I'm stitching just on the inside from here on the edge. I'm coming in about this far to start my lace so that then it doesn't create a problem. Now that we've got our lace put into our pocket, important part, remember to always trim your threads. My mom always told me that you want something to look professional, trim all of your threads every time. And then you can fool everyone to believe that you are professional. Just trim those threads. And then I'm going to re-pin it back onto my project where I want it to be, so that I can stitch it on. Okay, there's that. Super cute. Now I'm going to be stitching on this. If anyone is curious, all I did was put the white lace on top. I didn't fold any of this over. Nothing fancy. Again, this isn't trying to be a fancy thing. Yeah, we can throw a lace on it and make it super cute and fancy, but the project is not meant to be time-consuming, detail-oriented. This is just to try to create something cute out of something old. This time, since I have the lace on top, I am going to put 2 rows of stitching. One, I'm going to go right on the edge of where the jean fabric is, so that it holds it to the edge of the jeans. And then once again, closer to the inside to help secure the lace as we go. Always remember to take your pins out as you go, please. You can also break your needles, and pieces of metal can get in your machine and break your machine. I'm going back for the second row of stitching. Now you can see that I've got this stitched on. What do? Snip our threads to make it beautiful and professional. Okay, one side down, one more to go. Okay, now for the fun part. Is how you want it to sit against you. Remember, we have not sewed this pocket on yet. This also is a chance for you to see if you really do like the way that it fits and sits on you. So I like to do a loop neck personally. So I'm just going to hold right here, put a pin in it to help pretend like I've sewed it here, go around my neck, see where it sits. I like that. and then put a pin in it. Okay, now very carefully, you want to see if this can go on and off your head. I use my fingers to cover those pins so that it goes on and off. I'm not poking myself in the face or in the eye. You want to be very careful when working with pins. So, there's my loop. I figured out that's the size that I want, and that's where it's going to be sitting. So I'm going to cut the excess off of this one. Then I have the rest here for now that I've got the neck. I'll put it on, have it lay, and then I'll take these to make my sides similar to how we just did. So I'm going to put a pin. This is just to help us to be able to get the correct sizing for you individually, because this part does depend on each person. So what I've done is I've pinned both sides, one on each end. So now I've got a loop here at the end so that then I can hold it to where I want it to sit. And then with my fingers holding right here, I'm going to pull one out and find the part that I want to cut. That way it's perfectly in half. Okay, so one more time. You put a pin and pin on each end, pulling it to where, pretending like it would be tied, making sure you like the way it looks. Pulling it to the end here so that it shows the spot in the middle. I'm pinching with my finger, left here, holding on with this hand. I'm now gonna split. So that will now give me two ties that are just the right size for me. So then you do a little mock-up, tie to the back, check where you like it. I think this is turning out so cute. I do like where the pocket is placed. You can always add another pocket up on the top. I think the top is laying really nicely. I love the frill. Okay, now we're going to be pinning on and sewing our yellow straps. The reason I like double fold is because it already has its raw edges to where I can open it up and create a sandwich to put my fabric in. So I'm going to be sandwiching. Oh, I don't like this little raw edge, so I like to fold it up a little bit. You can press it if you want. I'm just folding mine so you can kind of see this little fold. It gives it a nice fresh look at the edge. And then I'm just coming to where this one attaches to the neck, and I'm sandwiching on each side, making sure it fits nice and snugly on there. And then pinning it. My pin wants to go through. Pinning that little sandwiched part. And then opening up the other side, doing just a tiny little tuck, gives it a nice little edge. Make sure that this is straight so you're not having any twists in the neck piece. Sandwiching it right down to the ribbon and putting another pin. Now the top is pinned and ready for sewing. Now for the sides, I didn't have quite enough lace to go all the way to my little curved edge. Do you see that there's a little space here? Between here and the peak of this. I knew that that was going to happen because of the nature of that I didn't quite have enough lace, but again, I don't like to buy lots of things for my projects because it's expensive. It gets really expensive working on projects. So we're going to get creative. We're going to make it work. Similar to how we did the little sandwiching, we're doing the sandwich again. So again, do a little fold at the top, gives it a nice edge. Fold it back in half. And I'm going to open my sandwich and go right up to that lace. So I'm opening up the sandwich, going right up to that lace, and then closing it down on the other side. So now we've got just a little yellow that will help tie it in together. I don't mind that this has here. If it really bugs you that there's a blocking off here, you can always try to just fold this in and taper it. I like the way it looks because it's just going to be the strap anyway. And then just to remember to have a nice pretty edge, I'm folding back the end and throwing a pin in it as well. Okay, so now this side's ready for sewing, and I'll do the other side. Now we're ready to sew. I'm going to start with the neck. I'm going to be stitching across this little part first, and then I'm going to go up because this still opens here, so I want to make sure that my stitching goes all the way up to close it off to make it a full strap. Neckline's done. Now on to the sides. Okay, now that we've got the straps on, I'm finally comfortable with adding on this part. So this part is the part that I save for last, usually for multiple reasons. Because we've got this super thick fabric here, and top of being jeans with probably at least 3 layers of jeans right here, you have to be very careful. So proceed very slowly with your sewing machine and make sure you've got the proper materials on. I like to line mine up with the stitches so it can kind of hide it, so that then I'm not adding another row on top of the already decorative stitches. For these turns, where I'm going to make a turn on the pocket, I'm going to put my needle down so that I can turn without having to lift up the whole foot, so then I can turn my project to keep sewing. Make sure that everything is out from underneath. You don't want your straps getting sewed or any of the materials, so just have to make sure, especially when you're turning, make sure that your project lays flat so you can sew. Okay. So with 1 row of stitching, you can totally leave it. I know that my machine can handle it, and I don't like this extra edge, so I am going to sew right along this edge because it's a lot thicker there. Make sure your machine can handle it. Without sewing it, it's fine. This will stay on. But I like to add it just because I don't like to have it loose. Okay, that completes the main design of this. I'll show you what it looks like on. Okay, the project is finished. Here's my jeans apron, which I will show you what it looks like. So I like the way this one fits. I think it's super adorable. Got the tie in the back, got my pocket in the front. I like this as a raw edge, especially since I'm going to have it match this little one. I think they turned out super cute together. They'd be a very adorable set to have with a little kid. You can make lots of these. They're really great if you wanted to do them for your kids, grandkids. I think they're a super fun way to reuse fabric and material. For this raw edge, all I'm going to do is just go around and cut little slips in it. This one I cut with pinking shears. They have zigzag, causes it to have a little bit of that natural little frayed look. But as it is, I really like this project. I like the way it sits, and I think it's a really fun one to have. So that is how you can turn jeans into aprons. This is what I made out of the original flower arrangement that you saw. I grabbed one of my extra embroidery hoops that I wasn't going to use for the back for stabilization. I just had this piece of foam which came in a packing kit that, from a project that I received, and then I just hot glued the pieces of the flower arrangement. And the good news is that I have enough left over from that flower arrangement to do another one. This is the second wreath that I made out of that bouquet earlier. So I have that one as the second one, and this one is the first one. And I made them. The flowers all in total were about $5, and the hoops I was given, but they average about $8. So got some beautiful new arrangements for relatively cheap. These 3 layers of jeans right here, you have to be very careful. So proceed very slowly with your vehicle. Letting go with the other hand. Oh, I let go with both hands. Silly me.